The morning sun rose over New Hope like it had done for the past 47 years. Governor Sarah Chen stood at her office window, watching the golden light paint the terraformed landscape. The colony had grown beyond anyone's dreams. What started as a small settlement of 3,000 brave souls had become home to 2.3 million people. Children played in parks. Scientists worked in laboratories. Families built lives under alien stars. Sarah's daughter Maya rushed into the office, her school bag bouncing against her back. The 12-year-old girl had her mother's dark eyes and her father's bright smile. "Mom, I finished my essay," Maya said, holding up her tablet. "Want to read it before I submit?" Sarah took the device and read the title, "Why Humans and Aliens Can Live Together in Peace." She smiled at her daughter's optimism. Maya had grown up knowing only peace. She had never seen war, never witnessed hatred between species. To her, the universe was a place of endless possibility. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Sarah said, hugging her daughter. "Your teacher will love it." Maya beamed and ran off to catch her school transport. Sarah watched her go, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with being a mother and a governor. She had promised these people safety. She had promised them a future. Across the colony, Chief Engineer Marcus Webb was inspecting the fusion reactors that powered New Hope's cities. The massive structures hummed with controlled power, each one a testament to human ingenuity. Marcus had been with the colony since the beginning. He remembered when they first landed on this world, when it was nothing but rock and thin atmosphere. Now, after decades of terraforming, it breathed like Earth. His communicator beeped. It was his wife, Helen, reminding him about their anniversary dinner. 30 years together, 20 of them spent building this colony. He smiled and sent back a quick message promising he would be home early. The day proceeded like any other. People went to work. Children attended school. The colony's automated defense system ran its routine scans of nearby space. Nothing unusual appeared. New Hope existed in a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from major shipping lanes and territorial disputes. That isolation had always been their greatest protection, until it wasn't. The sensors detected them first. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, not human ships. The defense AI immediately classified them as unknown vessels. Within seconds, the alert reached the colony's defense coordinator. Commander Rachel Torres stared at her screens in confusion. 15 ships, their design unlike anything in human databases. They were large, angular, covered in what looked like organic armor. But what troubled her most was their formation. This was not an exploration pattern. This was an attack formation. She immediately opened a channel. "Unknown vessels, this is New Hope Colony. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came quickly, but it was not what she expected. A harsh clicking voice spoke through the communicator. The translation software struggled for a moment, then displayed the message in clear text. "This space belongs to the Cravathi. You were warned. Your presence ends now." Rachel's blood ran cold. "We have received no warning. This is a peaceful colony. We mean no harm to anyone. Please, we can negotiate." The transmission cut off. On her screens, the alien ships began moving toward New Hope. They were not slowing down. They were not deploying landing craft. They were positioning themselves in orbital bombardment formation. "All hands to defensive stations," Rachel shouted. "Governor Chen, we have incoming hostile ships." "This is not a drill." "Repeat, this is not a drill." Sarah was in a council meeting when the alert came through. For a moment, she couldn't process the words. Hostile ships here? They had no enemies. They had never threatened anyone. New Hope was just a farming and research colony. "Activate all shields," she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear rising in her chest. "Get everyone to the shelters. Contact Earth immediately. Send them everything our sensors are recording." Marcus received the emergency alert while still in the reactor facility. His first thought was of Helen. She was at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. The hospital was in the central district, far from any shelter. He started running. The Cravathi ships reached orbital position. They were massive, each one larger than New Hope's entire defense fleet of 6 small patrol vessels. The human ships moved to intercept, their weapons powering up. They were outmatched, but they had families below to protect. The first Cravathi ship fired. A beam of superheated plasma cut through the lead human patrol ship like it was paper. The vessel exploded instantly, killing all 17 crew members in a flash of light. The other patrol ships returned fire. Their missiles and railgun rounds struck the Cravathi shields and dissipated harmlessly. The aliens did not even pause. They simply fired again. In the colony below, people ran for the shelters. Parents clutched children. The elderly helped each other down reinforced staircases. The shelters had been built decades ago, back when they first arrived. Most people had forgotten they existed. Now they ran toward them with desperate hope. Maya was in her classroom when the alarm sounded. Her teacher, Mr. Harrison, immediately ordered everyone toward the shelter beneath the school. The children moved quickly, but Maya could hear the fear in their voices. Through the windows, she saw bright lights in the sky. Explosions. Ships burning as they fell. "Stay together," Mr. Harrison called out. "We're going to be fine. Just keep moving." Sarah reached the command center as the bombardment began. She watched helplessly as the Cravathi ships systematically destroyed every defensive position, every military installation, every ship that tried to fight back. In less than 10 minutes, New Hope's defenses were gone. "They're targeting population centers now," Rachel reported, her voice breaking. "Governor, the shields won't hold. They're too powerful." Sarah looked at the screen showing the evacuation status. Only 40% of the population had reached shelters. There wasn't enough time. "Keep broadcasting our surrender," Sarah ordered. "Tell them we yield. Tell them they can have the planet. Just let our people live." But the Cravathi did not respond. Their ships continued firing. Plasma beams struck the cities, turning buildings to vapor. Fusion bombs fell on the agricultural districts, creating mushroom clouds that could be seen from space. The colony's shields flickered and failed under the relentless assault. Marcus reached the hospital just as the first bombs hit the district. The building shook violently. Ceiling tiles fell. People screamed. He found Helen helping patients into the basement shelter. Their eyes met across the chaos, and in that moment they both knew the truth. They were not going to survive this. They held each other as the hospital collapsed above them. Maya huddled in the school shelter with her classmates. The bunker shook with each impact. Dust fell from the ceiling. The emergency lights flickered. Mr. Harrison tried to keep everyone calm, but even he could not hide his fear anymore. The bombardment continued for 6 hours. The Cravathi were thorough. They wanted to ensure nothing survived. When they finished, New Hope was gone. The cities were craters. The forests were ash. The oceans boiled under nuclear fire. 2.3 million people had been erased from existence. The Cravathi ships departed without a word, leaving only death behind. But the automated communication buoys had recorded everything. Every moment of the attack, every desperate plea for mercy, every scream as the bombs fell. The recordings were compressed and transmitted toward Earth at light speed, along with a final automated message. "New Hope is lost. Remember us." 3 weeks later, the transmission reached Earth, and humanity learned what it meant to lose an entire world. The transmission reached Earth on a Tuesday morning. It arrived at the Deep Space Communication Center in Geneva, Switzerland. The technician on duty, David Morrison, was drinking coffee when his screen lit up with the priority alert. He set down his cup and opened the file. The first image showed New Hope before the attack. Beautiful cities gleaming under the sun, green fields stretching to the horizon. Then the next image appeared. Fires, explosions, ships falling from the sky. David's hands began to shake as he scrolled through the recording. He watched Governor Chen's final message, her voice steady even as her world burned around her. "To Earth, to humanity, New Hope is under attack by an alien species calling themselves the Cravathi. They gave no warning. They refused all attempts at communication. They are killing everyone. Please remember us. Remember what happened here. Don't let our deaths be meaningless." The transmission ended with sensor data showing the complete destruction of the colony. No life signs remained. David sat frozen for several seconds, then slammed his hand on the emergency alert button. Within an hour, every government on Earth knew. Within 2 hours, the news had spread to every human in the solar system. Within 3 hours, the streets of Earth's cities were filled with people demanding action. The grief was immediate and overwhelming. 2.3 million people, gone in 6 hours. Entire families erased. Children, elderly, scientists, farmers, teachers, all dead. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered in the Great Hall in Brussels. The mood was unlike anything in modern history. There was no debate about whether to respond. The only question was how. President Amanda Rodriguez of the United Earth Council stood before the assembly. Her face was drawn with exhaustion and sorrow. She had spent the night reviewing every second of the transmission from New Hope. She had watched children die. She had heard their screams. "Members of the council," she began, her voice heavy with emotion. "We have witnessed an act of pure evil. The Kravathi Empire has committed genocide against our people. They destroyed an entire colony without provocation, without mercy, without even the basic decency of a declaration of war." The hall was silent. Every representative had seen the recordings. Many had been crying. Some looked ready to explode with rage. "We have attempted to contact the Kravathi through all available channels," Rodriguez continued. "They have responded with contempt. They claim that all of that region of space belongs to them and that we were warned to leave. We have no record of any such warning. Even if such a warning existed, it would not justify what they have done." She paused, letting her words sink in. Then she spoke the sentence that would change human history. "I am authorizing the activation of Project Achilles. We will respond with the full force of humanity's military capability. Admiral James Corrigan will lead the Stellar Response Fleet. His mission is simple: make the Kravathi understand that humanity will not tolerate the murder of our people." The vote was unanimous. Every single representative agreed. Even those nations that had historically opposed military action voted yes. This was not about politics or ideology. This was about survival. This was about showing the galaxy that humanity could not be destroyed without consequence. Admiral James Corrigan received the orders in his office at the Mars Naval Command. He was a veteran of the border wars, a man who had seen combat against pirates and raiders. But this was different. This was total war against an alien empire. He assembled his command team immediately. Captain Elena Vasquez, his tactical officer, was a brilliant strategist who had graduated top of her class at the Naval Academy. Dr. Raymond Park, the weapons specialist, had spent 15 years developing experimental weapons that were supposed to be used only as deterrents. Commander Liu Wei, the fleet strategist, had studied every major military campaign in human history. "We have 47 ships available for the Stellar Response Fleet," Corrigan told them. "They're being equipped with every experimental weapon we've developed. Plasma lances, antimatter missiles, railguns that can fire at 0.9 the speed of light. And something else. Something we've kept secret even from most of the government." He pulled up classified files on the screen. Project Helios, a weapon capable of destabilizing a star. It had been developed decades ago as the ultimate deterrent. Something so terrible that its mere existence would prevent war. Now they might actually have to use it. "Sir," Elena said carefully, "are we really considering this? Using a weapon that could destroy an entire star system?" Corrigan's face was hard. The Kravathi killed 2.3 million civilians. Men, women, children. They didn't just attack a military target. They erased an entire world. If we respond with anything less than overwhelming force, we send a message to the galaxy that humans can be slaughtered without consequence. Dr. Park spoke up. His voice was quiet but firm. "I helped design these weapons hoping we would never need them. But after watching what happened to New Hope, I believe we must show the galaxy what happens when humanity is pushed to war. The Kravathi must understand the magnitude of their mistake." Commander Liu added his thoughts. "From a strategic perspective, half measures will not work. The Kravathi are a warrior culture. They respect only strength. If we attack and fail to achieve total victory, they will see it as weakness and continue their aggression. Other species might see it as an opportunity to test humanity as well. We must win completely and decisively." Corrigan nodded slowly. "Then we're agreed. We hit them with everything we have. No holding back. No second chances." The fleet assembled over the next 2 weeks. 47 warships, each one equipped with weapons that pushed the boundaries of known science. The ships were beautiful and terrible. Sleek hulls covered in reactive armor, weapon ports that could unleash the power of small suns, engines capable of crossing the galaxy in months instead of years. The crews numbered 15,000 men and women. All volunteers. All knew they might not come back. But every single one of them had watched the recordings from New Hope. They had seen what the Kravathi had done. They were ready to make them pay. Before departure, Corrigan made one final attempt at diplomacy. He sent a message through all known channels to the Kravathi Empire. "This is Admiral James Corrigan of the United Earth Fleet. You have destroyed Our colony of New Hope. You have murdered 3 million innocent civilians. We demand an immediate explanation and reparations. If you do not respond within 24 hours, we will consider ourselves at war. The Krivathi response arrived 12 hours later. It was brief and dismissive. Humans are weak creatures who fled their homeworld to infest other systems. The space you occupied belonged to the Krivathi Empire. We claimed what was ours. If you attempt to retaliate, you will share New Hope's fate. This is your only warning. Corrigan read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it and turned to his crew. Set course for Krivathi Prime, he ordered. Maximum speed. And prepare all weapon systems. It's time to teach them about human weakness. The fleet departed 2 days later. Earth watched them go with a mixture of hope and fear. Some called it justice. Others called it revenge. But everyone understood that humanity had crossed a line. They were no longer just explorers and colonists. They had become something else. They had become warriors. The journey would take 2 months at maximum faster than light speed. 2 months for the crews to train, to prepare, to come to terms with what they were about to do. The ships traveled in formation, a steel armada moving through the void of space with singular purpose. On the flagship, the ESS Retribution, Admiral Corrigan stood on the bridge and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krivathi were going about their lives, probably thinking they had frightened away another weak species. They had no idea what was coming for them. Corrigan thought about Governor Chen and her daughter. He thought about Chief Engineer Webb and all the other people who had died on New Hope. He thought about the children who would never grow up, the dreams that would never be fulfilled, the futures that had been stolen. They killed every man, woman, and child, he said quietly to Elena, who stood beside him. They must understand what that means. They must learn that humanity protects its own no matter the cost. Elena nodded. We'll make them remember, sir. We'll make sure the entire galaxy remembers. The fleet continued on its path, carrying with it the fury of an entire species. The Krivathi had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed that peaceful meant weak. They had confused patience with cowardice. They had attacked humanity's children. Now they would learn the truth. Humanity could be peaceful. Humanity could be patient. But humanity could also be absolutely ruthless when pushed too far. The countdown had begun. In 2 months, the Krivathi would face judgment. Supreme War Master Krelvok stood in the command center of the Krivathi homeworld, examining reports from the outer territories. The destruction of the human colony had been efficient and complete. It had sent a clear message to all species in the region. Krivathi space was not to be trespassed. The War Master was a massive creature, standing nearly 3 meters tall. His exoskeleton was deep purple, marked with scars from countless battles. He had led the Krivathi military for 20 cycles, conquering 14 different species during his reign. The humans were just the latest to learn respect for Krivathi power. The human colony has been eliminated, reported Sub-Commander Threk. All 2.3 million inhabitants are dead. The world has been rendered uninhabitable. Krelvok clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. Good, send word to all border fleets. Any further human expansion into our territory will be met with the same response. They must learn their place in the galaxy. Around the command center, other Krivathi officers worked at their stations. The empire was vast, spanning 17 star systems and controlling dozens of conquered worlds. The military numbered in the millions, with thousands of ships patrolling their borders. They were the dominant power in the sector of space. What if the humans attempt retaliation? Asked Thrak. Krelvok made a sound that might have been laughter. Retaliation? These creatures fled their homeworld because they poisoned it. They spread across space like parasites, building soft colonies full of families and scientists. They have no warrior spirit. They will mourn their dead and retreat further into their own territory. Intelligence suggests they have a military force. Thrak pointed out. A patrol fleet designed to fight pirates, Krelvok dismissed. The humans have not fought a real war in generations. They have forgotten what it means to face a true warrior species. We have conquered 14 species. Each one thought they could resist. Each one learned the truth. The Krivathi are superior. This attitude was common throughout the Krivathi Empire. They had built their civilization on conquest and strength. Their history was filled with stories of glorious battles and defeated enemies. Every Krivathi child was raised to believe in their species' superiority. In the military academy on Kravathi Prime, instructors taught young warriors about the Empire's victories. They studied the Therixian War, where they had crushed a species that once controlled 12 systems. They learned about the Velkor subjugation, where an entire civilization had surrendered after watching the Kravathi destroy their homeworld's moon as a demonstration of power. Humans were just another entry in this long list of victories. A minor species that had foolishly settled in Kravathi space and paid the price. The military analysts who suggested that humans might be more dangerous than they appeared were ignored or ridiculed. Commander Vexilar, who led the fleet that destroyed New Hope, had returned to a hero's welcome. He stood before the military council, receiving praise for his efficient execution of the mission. "You have defended the Empire's honor," High Counselor Drakthar told him. "The humans now understand the consequences of defying us." Vexilar bowed. "It was a simple task, honored counselor. Their defenses were pathetic. 6 small ships tried to oppose our fleet. We destroyed them in minutes. The colony shields failed almost immediately under our bombardment. It was hardly worthy of being called a battle." "What of human capabilities?" asked one council member. "Did they demonstrate any advanced technologies?" "Nothing impressive," Vexilar reported. "Standard fusion reactors, basic shield technology, primitive weapons. Their patrol ships used railguns and missiles, all easily countered by our defenses. I saw nothing that would concern our military." The council accepted this assessment without question. It confirmed what they already believed. Humans were weak, unprepared for real warfare. The matter was considered closed, but not everyone in the Kravathi Empire was so confident. Intelligence Coordinator Shalrix had been studying human transmissions and records for years. She knew things that the military leadership did not want to hear. In her office deep within the intelligence complex, Shalrix reviewed her files on human civilization. She had watched their entertainment media, studied their history, analyzed their cultural patterns. What she found troubled her deeply. Humans had fought wars among themselves for thousands of years. Terrible, brutal wars that killed millions. They had developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons. They had created horrors, and then somehow they had stopped using them. They had chosen peace, but choosing peace was not the same as being incapable of war. Shalrix understood this, even if the military leadership did not. Humans had the capacity for terrible violence. They had simply chosen to control it, to direct it into peaceful endeavors. But that capacity still existed, waiting to be unleashed. She tried to warn the council. She sent reports detailing human military potential. She pointed out that a species capable of nearly destroying itself surely had the ability to destroy others. But her warnings were dismissed. "You worry too much," her superior told her. "The humans have been defeated. They will not dare to strike back against the might of the Kravathi Empire." Shalrix was not convinced, but she was not in a position to challenge the council's wisdom. She could only watch and wait, hoping she was wrong. 2 months passed. The Kravathi continued their normal operations, secure in their dominance. Their fleets patrolled the borders. Their worlds prospered on the labor of conquered species. Everything seemed normal. Then the sensors detected something at the edge of Kravathi space. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, not merchant vessels, not civilian craft. Warships, human warships. The alert reached the outer defense fleet immediately. Fleet Commander Zarkoth reviewed the sensor data with growing surprise. 47 ships moving in perfect military formation. They were heading directly toward Kravathi space. "So the humans do have courage after all," Zarkoth said. "Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. They think 47 ships can challenge the Kravathi Empire." He commanded 200 ships in the outer defense fleet. These were not the Empire's best vessels, but they were more than sufficient to handle a minor human force. Zarkoth was actually pleased. This would give his crew some real combat practice. "All ships battle formation," he ordered. "We will destroy these humans quickly, then send their wreckage back to Earth as a message. Let them know what happens when they challenge us." The Kravathi fleet moved to intercept. 200 ships against 47. The outcome seemed certain. Zarkoth had already started composing his victory report in his mind. The human fleet did not slow down. They did not attempt to communicate. They simply continued forward, weapons systems charging. Their ships were different from the patrol vessels that had defended New Hope. These were larger, more heavily armed, built for war rather than peacekeeping. "They're powering weapons," reported the sensor operator. "Energy readings are unusual. I've never seen signatures like this." Zarkoth felt the first hint of unease. "All ships raise shields. Prepare to fire on my command." The two fleets closed to weapons range. The Cravathi opened fire first, launching thousands of plasma missiles toward the human formation. It was a devastating barrage, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The human ships activated their point defense systems. Laser grids lit up space, intercepting the missiles before they could impact. The few that got through struck the human shields and dissipated harmlessly. The human fleet did not even slow down. "Impossible," Zarkoth breathed. "Return fire. All weapons." The Cravathi ships unleashed everything they had: plasma beams, particle cannons, kinetic impactors. The space between the fleets became a storm of destructive energy. Then the humans fired back. The plasma lances cut through space at near light speed. They were coherent beams of superheated matter, focused to a point of incredible intensity. They struck the Cravathi shields and burned through them like they were not even there. Ships exploded as the lances punched through their hulls. The railgun volleys came next. Projectiles accelerated to 0.9 the speed of light. When they hit, they released kinetic energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. Entire Cravathi ships were torn apart by single impacts. In less than 5 minutes, 50 Cravathi ships were destroyed. In 10 minutes, 100 were gone. The human weapons were beyond anything the Cravathi had encountered before. Every shot was precisely aimed. Every hit was devastating. There were no wasted attacks, no missed shots. Zarkoth watched his fleet die around him. This was not a battle. This was an execution. "Retreat!" he shouted. "All ships, retreat to the homeworld. Sound the alarm!" The humans are a plasma lance struck his flagship. The bridge erupted in flames. Zarkoth's last thought was one of pure disbelief. How had they been so wrong? 14 minutes after the battle began, it was over. The entire Cravathi outer defense fleet was destroyed. 200 ships reduced to debris and radiation. The human fleet suffered 0 casualties. They had not even taken damage to their shields. On the ESS Retribution, Admiral Corrigan watched the aftermath with cold satisfaction. "Continue toward Cravathi Prime," he ordered, "and broadcast this message to their homeworld: we are coming." In the command center on Cravathi Prime, War Master Krelvok stared at the reports in horror. The news of the outer fleet's destruction spread through Cravathi Prime like wildfire. What had begun as confident dismissal of human capabilities had transformed into growing panic. Supreme War Master Krelvok stood before the military council, his mandibles trembling with rage and fear. "How is this possible?" High Counselor Drakthar demanded. 200 ships destroyed in minutes? By a species we believe to be weak? Krelvok had no good answer. The humans possess weapons far beyond what our intelligence suggested. Their technology is not primitive. It is advanced. Possibly more advanced than our own. Intelligence Coordinator Shalrix was summoned to the council chamber. She arrived with her files, her posture showing no satisfaction at being proven right. There was no room for pride when her entire species faced destruction. "You tried to warn us," Drakthar acknowledged bitterly. "Speak freely now. What do you know of these humans?" Shalrix pulled up holographic displays showing human history. Humans have been at war with themselves for thousands of years. They developed weapons of mass destruction centuries ago: nuclear bombs, biological weapons. They nearly destroyed their own world multiple times, but they stopped. They chose peace not because they were weak, but because they understood the cost of total war. She showed images from human conflicts, world wars that killed millions, cities reduced to rubble, the atomic bombings that ended their last global conflict. The council members watched in growing horror. "They have been peaceful for generations," Shalrix continued, "but that peace was a choice, not an inability. By destroying New Hope, we reminded them of what they are capable of. We awakened something they had put to sleep." "Can we negotiate?" asked one council member. "Can we offer reparations, territory, anything to stop this?" Krelvok shook his head. "I sent envoys when the human fleet entered our space." The human admiral's response was brief. New Hope had 2.3 million envoys. "Where are they?" He refused all attempts at communication. The council chamber fell silent. They had made a catastrophic mistake, and now they would pay the price. "We still have 400 ships in the home defense fleet," Krelvok said, trying to project confidence he did not feel. "We have orbital defense platforms, ground-based weapons, We will make them pay for every meter of space they take. But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. The humans had destroyed 200 ships without taking a single casualty. 400 more would not be enough. The human fleet approached Cravathi Prime systematically. They did not rush. They moved with the patience of predators who knew their prey had nowhere to run. Every ship maintained perfect formation. Every weapon system was primed and ready. On the ESS Retribution, Admiral Corrigan held a final briefing with his command staff. Captain Elena Vasquez, Dr. Raymond Park, and Commander Liu Wei gathered around the tactical display showing the Cravathi home system. The home defense fleet is positioning itself in orbit around Cravathi Prime, Elena reported. 400 ships plus 50 orbital defense platforms. Ground-based energy weapons are powering up. They're throwing everything they have at us. Their fleet composition? Corrigan asked. Mix of cruisers, destroyers, and dreadnoughts. The dreadnoughts are twice the size of our largest ships. Heavy armor, massive weapons arrays. They're formidable vessels. Liu Wei added his analysis. They're forming a defensive sphere around their homeworld. Smart tactics forces us to fight through multiple layers of defense. They're hoping to inflict enough damage to make us withdraw. Dr. Park spoke up, his voice quiet but firm. Admiral, we have the capability to end this quickly. Project Helios is ready. We could activate it now from this range. The Cravathi star would begin destabilization within hours. Corrigan was quiet for a long moment. Project Helios, the ultimate weapon. A device that could force a star into instability, causing it to expand and consume its own planets before collapsing. It was genocide on an unimaginable scale. No, he said finally. Not yet. We'll give them one chance. One final opportunity to understand what they've done. The human fleet entered the Cravathi home system. The defense fleet immediately opened fire. Space filled with plasma beams and missiles. The orbital platforms added their firepower, creating a wall of destructive energy between the humans and Cravathi Prime. The human ships activated their shields and pushed forward. The antimatter missiles launched first, each one carrying enough explosive power to vaporize a city. They struck the orbital platforms, punching through shields and armor. The platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The Cravathi dreadnoughts pressed forward, their massive guns firing continuously. They were powerful ships designed to break enemy lines through sheer firepower. Against any other foe, they would have been devastating. Against humanity's plasma lances, they were targets. The lances burned through space, each shot perfectly calculated by advanced targeting computers. They found weak points in the dreadnought's armor, exploiting gaps in their shield coverage. One by one, the massive ships died, torn apart from within as their reactors exploded. The battle raged for 3 hours. The Cravathi fought with desperate courage, knowing they were defending their homeworld. Their crews followed orders even as death approached. But courage could not overcome technology. Determination could not stop plasma that burned at the temperature of stars. When it ended, the Cravathi home defense fleet was destroyed. 400 ships reduced to wreckage. The orbital platforms were gone. Cravathi Prime lay defenseless before the human fleet. On the planet below, billions of Cravathi watched the sky in terror. Their mighty empire, which had conquered 14 species, had been broken in a single day. The realization was almost too much to comprehend. Admiral Corrigan stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking at the planet on his screens. Somewhere down there, families huddled together in fear. Children cried for parents. People wondered if they would see tomorrow, just like New Hope. Dr. Park, Corrigan said quietly, activate Project Helios. Park's hands moved across his console. Deep within the Retribution, the stellar manipulation device powered up. It was a marvel of physics, capable of sending precisely tuned gravitational waves across millions of kilometers of space. These waves would interact with the Cravathi star's core, disrupting the delicate balance of fusion reactions. Device active, Park reported, targeting the star's core. Destabilization sequence will begin in 1 hour unless we abort. Corrigan opened a channel that would broadcast to every receiver on Cravathi Prime and every ship in the system. When he spoke, his voice was cold and hard. People of the Cravathi Empire, you destroyed our colony of New Hope. You killed 2.3 million civilians without warning, without mercy, without justification. You believed we were weak. You believed we would accept this and do nothing. He paused, letting his words sink in across the planet below. You were wrong. We have activated a weapon that will destroy your star. In 1 hour, your sun will begin to expand. It will consume your inner planets. Kravathi Prime will be vaporized. Your outer worlds will become frozen, lifeless rocks. Your star system will become a tomb. Panic erupted across Kravathi Prime. People ran through the streets. Ships tried to launch from spaceports. The government tried to maintain order, but fear was too powerful. You have 1 hour to evacuate, Corrigan continued. Get as many people off-world as you can. Flee to deep space. We will not pursue those who escape. But in 1 hour, this system dies. He closed the channel. Around him, his bridge crew worked in silence. Some looked troubled. Others looked satisfied. All understood the magnitude of what they were doing. The evacuation was chaos. There were not enough ships. Not enough time. The Kravathi government tried to organize priority evacuation for essential personnel, but the plan collapsed immediately. People fought to get on ships. Families were separated. Children were trampled in the panic. Some ships made it to orbit and fled toward the edge of the system. Most did not. The spaceports could only handle so many launches. The ships could only carry so many people. Kravathi Prime's population numbered 6 billion. They had 1 hour to save whoever they could. Krelvok sat in his command center, watching his world descend into chaos. He had sent envoys to the human fleet, begging for more time, offering unconditional surrender. The humans did not respond. They simply waited, counting down the minutes. We were wrong, he said to Shalrix, who stood beside him. We treated them like all the others we conquered. We thought they would break like the Therixians, surrender like the Velkors, but they are not like the others. No, Shalrix agreed. They are not. On the Retribution, Dr. Park watched the countdown. 59 minutes had passed. In 60 seconds, Project Helios would complete its work. The Kravathi star would begin its death throes. Admiral, Elena said quietly, there are still billions down there, civilians, children, people who had nothing to do with the attack on New Hope. New Hope had children too, Corrigan replied. His voice was steady, but his eyes held terrible pain. Governor Chen's daughter was 12 years old. She wrote an essay about peace between humans and aliens. She believed in a better future. The Kravathi killed her along with everyone else. The countdown reached 0. Dr. Park activated the final CQ. The Kravathi star expanded slowly at first, then with increasing speed. Its outer layers grew, reaching toward the inner planets like grasping fingers of fire. The light it cast changed from warm yellow to angry red. The temperature across Kravathi Prime began to rise. Admiral Corrigan watched from the ESS Retribution, positioned at the edge of the system. His face showed no emotion, but inside he felt the weight of what he had done. Behind him, his crew worked in silence, recording every moment of the star's death. On Kravathi Prime, the evacuation continued in desperate chaos. Ships launched continuously from every spaceport, each one packed far beyond safe capacity. Families were torn apart as some made it aboard while others were left behind. The sky above grew brighter and redder with each passing minute. In the capital city, Supreme War Master Krelvok stood in the empty command center. Most of his staff had fled to the evacuation ships. He had ordered them to go to save themselves. He remained because this was his responsibility. He had advised the Council to attack New Hope. He had assured them the humans were weak. Intelligence Coordinator Shalrix had also stayed. She stood beside Krelvok, watching the displays that showed the expanding star. How many escaped? Krelvok asked. Perhaps 300,000, Shalrix replied. From a population of 6 billion. The rest will die here. Krelvok's mandibles clicked in anguish. We destroyed one of their worlds. They are destroying all of ours. Is this justice? They gave us an hour, Shalrix said quietly. They could have activated their weapon without warning, as we did to them. They gave us a chance to save some of our people. I do not know if that is justice, but it is more mercy than we showed them. The temperature continued to rise. The oceans began to boil. The atmosphere grew thin as gases escaped into space. People who could not reach the ships went to their homes, to their families. If they must die, they would die together. In the human fleet, Dr. Raymond Park monitored the stellar destabilization. The process was proceeding exactly as predicted. The star would expand for several more hours, consuming the inner planets. Then it would collapse, potentially forming a neutron star or black hole. The entire system would become uninhabitable. Admiral, Park said, his voice troubled. It's not too late. We could reverse the process. Send counterwaves to restabilize the star. It would take time, but we could save. No, Corrigan interrupted. We made our choice. The Cravathi made theirs. This is the consequence. Captain Elena Vasquez turned from her station. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's from their military command. Put it through. Krelvok's image appeared on the screen. The War Master looked diminished, his exoskeleton dull, his movements slow. Human Admiral, Krelvok began. I am Supreme War Master Krelvok. I commanded the forces that destroyed your colony. The responsibility for this war lies with me. I ask nothing for myself. But there are still billions on this world. Civilians, children. They did not make the decision to attack New Hope. Please, if you have any mercy, stop this. Punish me. Punish our military, but spare the innocents. Corrigan looked at the War Master for a long moment. Where was your mercy when you bombed New Hope? Where was your concern for innocence when you killed 2.3 million people? We were wrong, Krelvok said, and his voice broke. We believed you were weak. We treated you as we treated all others. We conquered. We did not understand. We did not know. But our people do not deserve to die for our mistakes. Neither did ours, Corrigan replied. But they died anyway. Governor Sarah Chen tried to negotiate. She offered surrender. She begged you to stop. You kept firing. Her daughter, Maya, was 12 years old. She believed humans and aliens could live together in peace. You killed her for that belief. Krelvok lowered his head. Then we will die, all of us. The Cravathi Empire ends here. But know this, human. You have become what you fought against. You have committed the same crime you punish us for. No, Corrigan said firmly. We gave you an hour. We gave you a chance. You gave New Hope nothing. Remember that difference when you face whatever comes after death. He closed the channel. The bridge was silent. The Cravathi star continued its expansion. The inner planets were consumed first, simply vanishing into the growing stellar mass. Then the star reached Cravathi Prime. The atmosphere ignited. The oceans flashed to steam. The ground itself began to melt. The billions who remained looked up at the sky one final time. Some prayed. Some cursed. Some simply held their loved ones close. Then the fire came and Cravathi Prime ceased to exist. The outer planets were scorched by the expanding star's radiation. Their atmospheres were stripped away. Any Cravathi who lived there died within hours. The star continued to swell until it had consumed the entire inner system. Then, just as Dr. Park had predicted, it collapsed. The outer layers blew off in a brief but spectacular supernova remnant. The core compressed into a neutron star, a dense ball of matter that would spin in the darkness for billions of years. The Cravathi system was dead. Where once there had been 17 planets and billions of living beings, now there was only radiation, debris, and silence. Admiral Corrigan ordered the fleet to broadcast one final message. It would be transmitted on all frequencies, sent to every known civilization in the galaxy. This is Admiral James Corrigan of the United Earth Fleet. The Cravathi Empire attacked our colony of New Hope without provocation or warning. They murdered 2.3 million civilians. We responded by erasing their star system from existence. Let this be known across the galaxy. Humanity seeks peace. We prefer negotiation to warfare. But to those who mistake our peace for weakness, witness what happens when we are pushed to war. We erased a star system. We can do it again. Choose wisely how you treat humanity. The message was transmitted and would reach other civilizations over the following weeks and months. The human fleet prepared to return home. But before they left, they did one last thing. The refugee ships carrying the 300,000 Cravathi survivors were gathered. The survivors expected to be destroyed to join their world in death. Instead, Corrigan opened a channel to them. Survivors of the Cravathi Empire, your government chose war. Your military chose genocide. You are what remains. We could kill you now. We could finish what we started. But we will not. You will live under human protection until you can find a new home. Perhaps you will remember that humans showed you mercy when your leaders showed us none. The Cravathi survivors were taken into custody by the human fleet. They would be transported to a neutral world, where they would be monitored but allowed to live. It was a strange mercy, born from humanity's struggle to remain human even in the midst of terrible revenge. The fleet returned to Earth 2 months later. They were greeted as heroes by some, as war criminals by others. The debate about whether the response was justified would continue for generations. Admiral Corrigan submitted his report and immediately requested retirement. He could not continue to serve knowing what he had done. In his nightmares, he saw the Cravathi star expanding, consuming worlds full of people who had never done anything to humanity. But he also saw Governor Chen's face. Maya's essay about peace, the recordings of New Hope burning. He did not know if what he had done was right. He only knew it had been necessary. The galactic response to humanity's actions was immediate and dramatic. Species that had been considering expansion toward human space immediately reversed course. Aggressive empires ceased all hostile activities near human borders. First contact protocols were urgently revised by dozens of civilizations. Humanity had proven that they could be peaceful, but they had also proven that they could be apocalyptic. The galaxy would not forget the lesson. 3 years after the destruction of the Cravathi system, a memorial was completed on Earth. It stood in Geneva, near the United Earth Council building. 2 walls of black stone faced each other. On one wall were carved the names of every person who had died on New Hope, 2.3 million names. On the other wall was a single inscription: "They believed in peace. We failed them. We will not fail again." The Cravathi survivors had been resettled on a world in neutral space. They numbered just over 200,000 now. Many had died from grief and despair in the years following the destruction of their home, but others had begun to rebuild, to create a new culture from the ashes of the old. They erected their own memorial. It bore the names of the 6 billion Cravathi who had died, and beneath those names they carved a warning in their own language and in human script. We believed we were strong. We learned we were fools. May no other species repeat our mistake. Admiral Corrigan stood before the memorial on Earth on the 5th anniversary of New Hope's destruction. He came every year, needing to remember, needing to feel the weight of what had been done. He touched the stone where Maya Chen's name was carved, the 12-year-old who had believed in peace, whose death had sparked a war that erased a star system. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "We avenged you. But I don't know if you would have wanted this. I don't know if any of this was right." The wind blew across the memorial plaza. Corrigan stood in silence, bearing witness to the cost of violence, of revenge, of the terrible mathematics of war. Thank you for watching, and comment for next part.